Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Robyn MacKillop with Get That GED, and today we're going to work on Punnett squares again. And you'll probably get 3 to 4 Punnett square questions on the science test. And of course, they never give them to you the way you learn them. So I'll make sure you get them in every way that they could ask them. And so if we don't get through it all today, we'll do it again next week. Because once you are comfortable with Punnett squares, they're not super difficult once you know how to do them. But if you hadn't had any instruction, you'd be looking at them like, this doesn't even make sense. So let's get going. Let me switch cameras. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, and just keep coming in. All right, let's take a look. And I'm going to pin this so you can see it in the recording. All right. So Punnett squares are these things. And what they do is they give you a very simplified version of genetics. So you could track traits. You'll have 2 parents and the genes for both parents. You put the male parent up here and the female parent. For student, okay. So let's just go through this and then I can explain what I was talking about. The first thing that you need to know about Punnett squares is you have genotypes, which are the genes. Every one of us has a double set of letters for each trait. So let's say you've got brown eyes. That means your genotype is either big B, which is dominant brown, or big B, little b, which is still dominant brown, but you carry a blue-eyed gene. This is a genotype, the 2 letters. And all it is the trait that you carry. And if you're blue-eyed, you look like this. You have 2 recessive genes. Anytime you've got a capital letter, it is dominant. And if you have 2 small letters, they are recessive. So brown eyes are much more common in the world than blue eyes. Blue eyes are actually an anomaly. And blue or brown-eyed parents can have blue-eyed children, but blue-eyed parents cannot have brown-eyed children. They can only have blue-eyed children. And again, this is simplified because when you think about the color of eyes, brown could be anywhere from so dark brown they almost look black to light amber. And blue eyes can be anywhere from dark blue to light blue to green. So there's a lot of variance, and Punnett squares do not give you that variance. They just give you the brown or the blue. Okay, so genotypes are the 2 letters, and there are only 3 genotypes: double dominant, dominant with a recessive, and recessive. And you only see the dominant, or you'll see the recessive if they're both recessive. So there's another, I'm going to throw some vocabulary at you. I don't want you to panic. It's a lot of vocabulary, but you don't have to define any of it. This is when you have 2 big B's, it is homozygous dominant. Homozygous means the same. So you have 2 capital letters, same. Little b is homozygous, same. Let's see if I can write faster. Recessive. are two recessive genes. And when you have a dominant and a recessive, it is heterozygous, different. So don't let these vocabulary words throw you. You'll see them, but you won't have to define them. And the more we go through this, the more they'll kind of make sense and gel. And again, you don't have to memorize them because they're never going to ask you what each one means. They're just going to end up being in the directions for the problem. So that's a lot of terms, isn't it? And it looks like chicken scratch because I made it really messy. So anytime you have two of the same letter, size letter, little is recessive, homozygous, recessive, big, homozygous, dominant. When you have one of each, heterozygous. These are the only three genotypes you will see: double dominant, dominant with a recessive, double recessive. Does that make sense to folks, or enough sense that you're okay with it? You don't have to love it yet. And I can bring that back if you want to see it. So with that, let's take a look at these. Oh, this is another term, phenotype. This is the physical. So genotype, these are genotypes. These are the trait letters. The phenotype is what you can see. So if you look at somebody and you see they have brown eyes, brown is their phenotype. If somebody has blue eyes, that is their phenotype. It's what you can see. It's the physical. So if purple flowers are dominant to white flowers, which one of these is going to be, well, let's start with this one. If we have double dominant, are the flowers going to be purple or white?
Purple.
Perfect. They are going to be purple. And if we have one of each, a big letter and a little letter, dominant and recessive, what color are the flowers going to be?
One, half can be white and half can be purple.
Actually, they'll all be purple because this capital P is the winner. The little letter never wins against the big letter.
Oh,
So
okay.
so this person carries a recessive gene, but the flowers themselves, or the flowers carry a recessive gene. These flowers will be purple. Anytime you've got a capital letter, it's going to be the dominant color. Then when you get to the two little letters, what color are these flowers going to be?
White.
Yes, these are going to be white. And what's interesting about these, so this is the genotype for this particular flower. They got this one from dad and this one from mom. So if this flower was crossed with one of these, then the kids would get one of each. So you always have two. Every person has two. You got one from the dad or the father figure and one from the mother. Genetics, it's very interesting. All right, so hairy knuckles are dominant to non-hairy. So if we've got two dominant letters, big H, is this going to be hairy or no?
Hairy.
Yeah, perfect. And when you've got one dominant, one recessive, are the knuckles hairy or no?
Hairy.
Hairy.
Yeah, good job. And if they're both recessive, hairy or no?
No.
Non-hairy.
No.
And not, they're perfectly smooth. And then bobtails in cats are recessive. See what they did? They switched you. You were looking for dominant. Now bobtails are recessive, but normal tails are dominant. So what does this cat have? Bob
Nor-
or
Normal
yeah,
tail.
Normal.
perfect.
Normal.
These are kind of fun. And how about this one?
Normal.
Normal.
Normal too.
Perfect. Absolutely. And this one?
Recessive.
Recessive.
The
Yeah.
bobtail.
Recessive.
Yeah, it's going to have a little short tail. Perfect. All right. Does that kind of make some sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the letters
Yes.
never matter. It's whether they're
Yeah.
capital or small. You don't care what the letters are. They can be any letter. It's just capital is dominant. Capital is dominant. Double recessive. So I'll let you
But-
guys do a D and E on your own. Now,
But I'm sorry, is the big capital has a power always?
always.
Okay.
So when you've
Okay.
got this is heterogeneous, it'll still be the dominant that you see. That person just happens to carry a recessive,
But if
which
they
they
put
could
before,
potentially pass on to.
like before, first the small and the another one big, they're still the same. The
Still
power,
the
the
same.
big one. Okay.
Yeah. These are exactly the same.
Okay. Thank you.
It just means one came from the father, one came from the mother. They act the same way. Once you've got both, that is exactly the same. All right, so here we've got those terms. Remember, homozygous is same and heterozygous is different. Ooh, that's a terrible D. Can you read that? Ooh. And this one will be the same. So if you're looking at big A, well, first, is it going to be homozygous or heterozygous? Are they the same?
Homozygous. Homozygous.
And when they're big, they are,
Dominant.
yes. So big A is homozygous dominant. And little a, same or different?
Is it different?
Same. The same.
Okay.
Same. So they're going to be homozygous and they're little, so they're
Recessive.
perfect. So homozygous recessive. And then when you have a big one and a little one,
Homozygous.
I don't know how to say
Yeah.
it.
Homozygous.
Heterozygous.
yeah, it's heterozygous. And again, these are the only three styles you can have. So homozygous dominant, big A, homozygous recessive, little a, or heterozygous.
Heterozygous, got it.
Yeah, so if you get comfortable with that, with those three terms, you'll never have to worry about it. Because there is no more, that's it. Big A, little a, big A, little a. All right, so here we've got dominant and recessive. Is that going to be homozygous or hetero?
Hetero.
Yes, good job. And we've got the next one, big B,
Homozygous.
Heterozygous.
dominant or recessive?
Dominant.
Dominant.
Perfect. And little b,
Recessive.
perfect. Nice. All right. I'll let you finish that last one. All right. In dogs, oh, allele, I didn't talk about that. So we were talking about big A, little a, big A, little a. Individually, these are alleles.
Allele.
Yeah, together, it's a genotype. But individually, It's an allele. So you get an allele from your father, an allele from your mother.
It's
And the
half
same
half.
with animals and the same with plants. It's a lot of terminology, but again, you don't have to define anything.
So they have same meaning?
Say that again.
The same meaning they have, the genotype or LS?
So allele would be the individual A. So an allele is the A, whereas the genotype is the 2.
Together. Got it.
So every human has this. These are what, so if you have children, whatever you have, you send one to your child. And then your partner sends the other. And so your child has 2, but 1 from each parent. And individually, you send an allele to your child. Your parents each sent you an allele and gave you a genotype. It's a lot of words. It's terrible vocabulary.
Wow. Interesting.
It is. It's kind of cool. And once you're comfortable with it, again, they're never going to ask you to define the terms, which is helpful, but they'll give you something like this. In
Like
dogs,
what problem? Right?
yeah. The gene for fur color has 2 alleles. Dominant, big F, is gray. So, and I tend to write these just so it's easier to see. Big F is gray. And little f is black. So little f is black fur. And
Is it
then
easier to write that down like when you're doing the testing?
it is, just so you don't have to keep jumping back here and trying to remember what is dominant and what
Okay.
color dominant is. And if you're in a testing center, you will have something to write on. If you take it online, you will have a whiteboard on the screen. So you can keep notes on the screen. Okay, let me make sure. All right. So let's do the square itself. When you have a square, you put the male's genotype up here and the female here. So dad, mom, male, female. It's just, it's science. It's not because one is better than the other. So here we've got female dog is heterozygous. So that means she is big F, little f. What does she look like?
Gray.
Yeah,
Gray.
she's going to be gray. And you can spell gray with an E or an A. I don't think it matters. And then the male dog is homozygous recessive. So he's going to be little
BB.
f, and what color?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Black.
Black.
perfect. So now you have the parents. Now we're going to fill in for the kids. Pull from the male, little f, pull from the female, big F. That's kiddo number 1 or puppy number 1. Pull from the male up above, pull from the
Okay.
female. This is puppy number 2. Pull from the male, pull from the female, puppy number 3, and puppy number 4, pull from the male, pull from the female. Now you have 4 puppies. What color are these 2 puppies going to be?
Gray.
Gray.
Yes, so you have 2 gray puppies and 2
Black.
black puppies.
Black.
Perfect. And each one of these squares is 25%. So, and this will be the question you get on the test. What percent of puppies are gray?
50.
Yes, because a Punnett square always equals 100%. And in this case,
Always
we've got,
25%.
you can get 75 if 3 of them matched. In this case, we've got 2 heterozygous and 2 homozygous recessive. So we've got 2 gray puppies and 2 black puppies, and it's 50
50.
each. Interesting.
Yeah.
If you get this, you will be able to answer every question they throw at you. Sometimes they will give you a Punnett square fully filled out, and then they just want to know what's the percent of black puppies or whatever. They've already filled it out for you. You don't have to do the work. Then they'll give you exactly what we had here. They'll give you the info and the question. They give you nothing. You get to do your own Punnett square. So just know sometimes it'll be filled out for you. Other times you get to fill it out yourself. They're not very kind. They should just give you the info and be done with it. Okay, so here, female dog is black fur, male dog has black fur. Figure out the percentages of phenotype. This is the color of the dog, the physical, and the genotypes. This is whether or not they are big F, little f. And that was big F was gray and little f was black. And then they want us to figure out the how many puppies based on these. So both dogs have black fur. That means you could do this in a couple different ways. You could say, well, both dogs are double dominant or homozygous dominant. Oh, sorry, homozygous recessive because they're black. So you could have both the male dog and the female dog fully recessive black. And then all the babies would be exactly the same. They'd all be recessive black. Or you could have male dog. Oh, no, that's it. Sorry. I went way ahead of myself. This is all you can have because they both have black fur. They're both double recessive. So all the puppies are black. This whole family, 100% black. Sorry about that. I took you down a track I shouldn't have. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And this is the same with blue-eyed people. This is why blue-eyed people can't have brown-eyed children. Because they're double recessive and all the kids are double recessive. Interesting, right? All right, and then this one, female dog is heterozygous, different. So she is going to be big F, little f. Big F, little f. Male dog is also heterozygous, so he's going to look the same. They're both going to be gray because they're both carrying a dominant gene. And then we're going to figure out the kiddos. So this little puppy is going to be big F from dad, big F from mom, little f from dad, big F from mom, big F from dad, little f from mom, little f from dad, little f from mom. These two are exactly the same, even though they're reversed. So we've got a double dominant or a homozygous dominant. We've got 2 heterozygous. And we've got 1 homozygous recessive. So we have what percent of double dominant?
25.
Perfect. And we have what percent of heterozygous?
50.
Perfect. And what percent of recessive?
25.
Perfect. So 100% total, perfect. And you've got a fully gray puppy, 2 more gray puppies that happen to carry the black gene, and you've got 1 black puppy. What do you think?
So it
75
would be,
gray.
I'm sorry, it would be 75% that are going to be gray and 25% they're going to be black.
Yes, you got it. 75% gray, and you have to watch on GED for their question, because they could ask you what percent for each genotype, which is what this is, or they could say what percent for gray dogs and black dogs. They're never kind. They always mix things up. So perfect. That was excellent. Nice. All right. Do you want to see another one?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Here we've got fruit flies. And we have red eyes are dominant. So big E is red. And white eyes are recessive. So little e is white. If the female fly has white eyes and the male fly is homozygous dominant. So we're going to put out our Punnett square. So female is white-eyed. So she is double recessive or homogeneous recessive. And he is homozygous dominant. He is big E. And then we just fill it in for the offspring. Big E from dad, little e from mom, big E from dad, little e, big E, little e, big E, little e. What color eyes do the 4 kiddo flies have?
Red.
Yep, they're all red, 100% red. And 100% heterozygous. Big E, little e. Hetero. Nice. All right. If the female fly is big or big E, and so is he, we're going to kind of see the exact same thing we saw earlier with the recessive dogs. Whoops, I didn't do that right. There we go. What are all the kids going to look like? They're all going to be the same, aren't they?
Yeah, same.
Yes.
And the whole family is going to be red-eyed. So 100%.
Homozygous.
Yeah,
Homozygous dominant.
perfect. Nice. Oh, you guys are getting this. Awesome. And 100% red. Nice. All right. And the last one for flies. If both are heterozygous, that means one of each. Big E, little e for the father fly, big E, little e for the mama fly. Then you fill in the kiddos. Little e from dad, big E from mom, big E from dad, little e from mom, little e from dad, little e from mom. So here, how many red-eyed flies do we have?
2.
75%.
Three.
Perfect. Yep. Nicely done. You've got
Oh, yeah,
3
3.
or 75% red, which
And
means
25%.
1 or 25% white. And if you break it up by genotype, you've got 1 EE, you've got 2 heterozygous, and you've got 1 homozygous recessive. And that would be,
Heterozygote is dominant.
yes,
Okay.
always. Always, always. Yeah, the only time you get to see blue eyes, or in this case, white eyes, is if both genes are recessive.
The meaning of offspring, sorry. Like offspring.
Yes.
What's the
Offspring.
meaning of? Yeah, I don't understand that.
Oh, it
the-
means
the word.
children. Or and the reason they use that term is because they can use it for plants and animals.
Okay, thank
You know,
you.
plants, we don't really consider a father plant and a mother plant. For animals, we can, depending on how you feel about pets. And for people, clearly, you have 2 parents. You have 2 biological parents, no matter what. Because it takes a male and a female human to make another human. So they use offspring because if they're talking about plants, we just don't consider plants to be mother and father. We, you know, male, female. So that's all offspring is. It's the kids. All right. So how do you feel about those?
It's good.
Was good.
Good.
Was good.
So on this page, I'm going to have you guys do it. Do you want to do it during class or do you want to do it on your own and send it in?
As it is good.
So if you've got a piece of paper, try these and then tell me when you're ready and we'll go over them. And do I need to put anything? Help you.
Yeah, we're ready.
Awesome.
Miss Robyn, when you finish with the class, can you send me meanings of everything?
How many? I missed the last part of your question.
I'm still a little confused with the homozygous
Oh,
and
yes,
the hetero. So can you send it to me? I kind of have it, but I just need to know.
I will
that.
absolutely send it to you.
Thank you. Because I'm having a hard time seeing. So
Ah, gotcha.
kind of small.
Yes, I will make sure you get that. And it's an awful lot of vocabulary. Let's be honest.
Miss Robyn,
Yes,
are you going to post this video if I can watch it over until I get it?
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, darling.
Will it be posted on the Facebook?
I'll send it to you via email.
Okay. Do I send you my email on here now?
I think I have, is this Camila?
No, it's
No.
James Betta.
I think, do I not have you? Did you get an email from me this morning?
I didn't. I just jumped on from Facebook.
Oh, perfect. Then will you, in the chat, you can say to just me. You don't have to give your email to everybody. Will you put your email in there and I'll make sure that you get this?
Okay.
For the question number 9, I don't understand. I can't do it.
No problem. This stuff, it takes a minute to get it. It's all very new. And I don't remember doing it when I was in school. I've had some students say, oh yeah, I had this in 8th grade. And I'm like, oh, I didn't. I had to learn it. Natalie, the math class is on Mondays at 10. And Jibsetta, thank you. I've got your. I'll make
And
sure
what
you-
are all the times that you meet?
So we always meet Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We meet at 10 Pacific and 1 o'clock Eastern, which is the same North American time zone. So 10 a.m. Pacific. Where are you in the world?
I'm in Texas.
So you might be, you're either Mountain or Central time. Do you know which?
Central.
Okay, so you will be at noon.
Okay.
And then for anyone not in North America, you can check online for a time zone. It'll tell you what time.
And are you just teaching science or?
So Monday is math.
Okay.
Like that M for math.
Okay.
Tuesday is language arts and social studies because they're very similar.
Right.
I mean, there's a couple different things you have to know for each, but otherwise they're mostly just reading. And then
Okay.
Wednesday is science, because I kind of think science for some reason gets forgotten in the classroom. I don't know
Mhm.
why. It's kind of like when I teach math, I make sure to teach geometry early because most teachers leave it for the end and then they run out of time. And so you don't get the geometry you need.
Okay.
Same with
Gotcha.
science. Yeah, science seems to fall off the table. It's like, no, they need the science.
I really thank you.
Not a problem. All right, how are people doing with this? Is this at all clear? So there are two possible genotypes Gilbert can have. He is a hearing dog, and deafness is a recessive trait. So to be deaf, you would have to have 2 little d alleles. Your genotype would have to be little d. But Gilbert, this dog, can hear. So he could be fully hearing, no recessive gene, big D, or he could be heterogeneous. He could have dominant gene, which means he hears just fine, but he carries a deaf gene, which he could potentially pass on to a puppy. But he will never have a problem with deafness because this dominant gene is what will propel him. Dominant, if you've got a heterogeneous genotype, the dominant will always win. And this will just be something that person or that dog or that plant carries and could potentially hand off to a kid. And even that's not for sure. I mean, none of this is for sure because every time 2 cells come together, you're back to 0. So even though we were doing squares with 4 kiddos, let's do this one. this is not a guarantee. Even if you happen to know your genotype and your partner's genotype, this is no guarantee that this is how your kids come out. You could potentially have, let's say you had 4 kids, they could all be double dominant, or they could all be double recessive, or they could all be heterozygous. This is just a simplified form of genetics. And so it's really, it's fun, but it's not perfect because science isn't perfect. So these would be the 2 possible genotypes for Gilbert, because he can hear. So if he is big D, little d, and you'll get questions like this where you have to create the Punnett square, but at least they give you the information. So here is Gilbert. He doesn't want to breed him if he's got the deafness gene, and he does. This can be tested by breeding the dog with a deaf female. She's got double recessive. Draw 2 Punnett squares to illustrate these 2 possible crosses. All right. So in this case, what the owner is looking for is whether or not Gilbert has the deaf gene. And the best way to do that is to cross him with a deaf female, because when you fill in the square, that's a hearing dog. That's a deaf puppy. This is a hearing puppy. This is a deaf puppy. If Gilbert has this recessive gene and he's mated with a deaf dog, if any of his puppies are deaf, that proves he carries the recessive. So a breeder won't use him to breed because they don't want deaf puppies. Does that make sense at all?
It does.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yes.
Now, if Gilbert is fully hearing and they breed him with a deaf female, all the puppies will be hearing. They'll all carry, whoops, that was on D, not F. They'll all carry a deaf gene, but every one of them will be able to hear. And so the breeder might not want to breed those puppies, but if he was concerned, he'd do the same thing that he did here. He'd take one of these puppies, breed it with a deaf female or a deaf dog. And if they had any deaf puppies, he would stop breeding that dog. Welcome from South Dakota. Is it cold in South Dakota right now, Natalie?
Yes, ma'am. It's snowing.
Oh, geez.
Oh, wow.
It's very gray here. It looks like it wants to snow, but Oregon doesn't snow that much, the Willamette Valley where I am, but it can get really, really cold.
Well, here in Texas, it don't know what it wants to do. We get a little sleet, sunshine, rain, all in one day.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to plan for anything outside when you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Take your snow boots and your regular shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Be glad
in
we're
this
not
one,
California.
oh, go ahead.
I said, be glad we're not California.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're having a time, aren't they? So here, what percentage or how many of the offspring would be expected to be hearing, deaf? And this goes with this question. How could you tell the genotype of this male dog? And we answered that by, if he's got the deaf gene and we mate him with a deaf dog, likely to have a deaf puppy, which will say, okay, don't breed him because he carries that gene. If he's fully hearing, there will be no deaf puppies. The breeder will have to worry about it if he wants to breed the puppies, but then, he just goes back and does this. And then also using Punnett squares show how 2 hearing dogs could produce a deaf offspring. And that's when you've got the one of each. That last little puppy ends up, whoops, you can't see that. That last little puppy ends up being deaf. And again, this is oversimplified. There's no guarantee that anyone is going to be deaf. It's just a way for the breeder to find out if there is a deaf gene. So these two are hearing, this one is hearing, and this poor little guy is deaf, which isn't great for dogs. They need to hear. All right. Let me switch. So how do you feel about those? Feeling pretty good?
Well, I just kind of jumped in on it, so it's kind of confusing to me, but I'll pick it up.
Yeah, and I'll send you all the recording so you can go through
Okay.
it. And
I just need to know the actual definitions of each thing, like the hetero.
I will make
Uh,
sure I've got a sheet with all of that, a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
I'll send that to
Okay.
just so everybody's got it.
Okay.
Oh, thanks,
that
because I
way-
can use that too.
Excellent.
It's pretty. I like it, but we see when they start asking you, what is hetero dominant, then I get a little confused. But if it's like
Yeah.
the
It's much easier, I think, to think about it in terms of big D, little d. But you know, the test doesn't do that. They throw in the words, the vocabulary. So
yeah.
excellent. Well, if anyone has any questions, you can either email me. If anybody is not getting the emails, check your spam. It should be coming from me, Robyn MacKillop, yes@getthatged.com. So it could potentially be in your spam. If you don't find it there, just send me a message on Facebook, or you can comment and say, I'm not getting them, I registered, and I'll make sure that you're on the list. And
Okay.
yeah. And Jim said, I got your email, so I'll make sure you get these. And
Okay,
yeah. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go unless you have questions. I'll wait a second.
Thank you, Ms.
So-
Robyn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Miss
thank you,
Robyn.
Darlene. I'm so
Appreciate
glad
it.
you're here.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you,
so-
Tommy.
so much.
I have
Send
a
it to me homework.
I
More.
will.
Yeah,
I've
I
got
need
some
homework.
tough homework. I'm
You
gonna
make
send you
things so easy.
Yeah, so easy.
I'm gonna send you a tough homework.
Okay.
If it doesn't make sense, ask questions, but see if you can do it. Because if you can do the homework, you'll have no problem on the test.
Okay.
Okay,
So
then send it
wait.
right now.
Okay, well, let me get the recording and I'll send it all.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes,
I know you say you do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and for Central Time, it'll be 12 o'clock here.
yes.
Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure I had everything wrote down and okay, I got it.
Yeah, so 10 for me, noon for you, and then my East Coasters, 1 o'clock.
Okay, gotcha.
And for people on the in Europe or in Africa, Middle East, it's a little later.
Oh,
I think Pakistan is 14 hours ahead. So my 10 o'clock would be there 2 in the morning.
Oh, dear.
And I've
So-
got people who do it.
so do you send homework
It's 12
for
o'clock.
so do
Yeah.
you send homework for the lesson
Yes.
that what you're teaching for that day or
Yes, so in the
Okay.
morning, so Monday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, you'll get an email with what we're gonna work on that day.
okay.
And so you've got it.
Okay,
And
sure.
then after, when I know kind of where people are, I'll send some more stuff and I'll send all of you a hard one. But if you can do the hard one from today, you'll be fine.
Well,
You
I
won't
know I
have to
won't
worry
be
about it. You'll be like, oh,
I
I've
know I
got
won't be
it.
able to, but
I know, right?
But you will be able to soon. Maybe not
Okay.
right now, but you totally will be.
Okay.
All right.
Nice meeting you.
All
ladies.
right,
Have a good
Yeah.
day.
thank you.
You too.
Yeah, I hope everybody have a good day.
You
Yes,
too,
all of
thank
you too.
Don't forget the cheat sheet.
Right, I will
Yeah.
not.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Bye. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Bye.